Welcome to our first newsletter of 2014, which discusses issues related to research and development in Canada. During the latter part of 2013, the Canada Revenue Agency released two new policy changes. The first is the implementation of a new project reporting format. The second is the practice of requesting additional evidence of the work itself and related costs. We will discuss each of these new measures in the following slides. With respect to the new project format, there are two major changes. As in the past, the CRA requires you to describe the technology of the project in three separate sections. These criteria are the same, but the structure and order has changed. The first of these changes is with the tense of technological advancement criteria. Previously, Box 240 started by asking what advancements we were trying to achieve. This is now moved to Box 246, or the end of the project, where they now ask what advancements have been achieved. The second change is the addition in Box 242 in defining technological uncertainty, in which they clarify that the uncertainties must exceed any knowledge within the realm of an industry's standard practice. The recommended format to provide this information follows the scientific method and can be divided into three sections. 1. Defining standard practice knowledge to someone who's skilled in the art, and then objectives which exceed it. 2. Hypothesizing as to the main variables for experimentation in order to achieve the objectives above. And 3. The experimentation process itself, which should lead to the conclusions or new knowledge which define the technological advances. As illustrated above, it appears the first three sections of our template should fall into Box 242. Then a summary of the experimentation logs should follow in Box 244, and lastly, the results and conclusions would be listed in Box 246. While this may seem like a significant change to prior claimants, the actual data required remains the same. The second major CRA development during 2013 is the new practice of requesting considerable amounts of evidence before assessing a claim or performing a site visit. Here's an example of a typical RFI, or request for information, which asks for details on the work of each employee by day, week, or month, and contemporaneous evidence of both the experimentation and the due diligence process to define existing standard practice knowledge before starting the work. They also ask for evidence of the new knowledge generated, which we propose means that you must clarify the conclusions. They also reiterate that the employee costs must be supported by timesheets. Using our project template, the first step should always be to define all existing sources of knowledge regarding the project in question. This would include articles, internet and patent searches, and correspondence with suppliers, advisors, and other experts. To illustrate this using the R&D based program, the example above provides a listing of the sources and also allows the user to upload key documents which illustrate the limitations of existing standard practice methods. For larger projects, we encourage claimants to run a free search using Google Patents and perhaps follow up with one of our IP solution providers for additional assistance on the initial search or perhaps even the final patent filing. If you select Patent Review, you will be taken to our website, which lists our patent and IP partners. They are willing to A, log into your R&D base account, and B, provide a free quote as to the cost for any further patent, licensing, and intellectual property development services. If we assume we've exceeded the standard practice requirement, we now also need to ensure we have maintained adequate evidence of the research and how it meets the SR&ED criteria. We propose this is best achieved by correlating the experiments and conclusions to the stated variables of experimentation and uncertainty. To meet the new CRA reporting requirements, we propose that the traditional experimentation details, which were summarized annually, now need to be tracked weekly or even monthly via logs. This requires the researcher to define the appropriate log intervals, then have them work as teams to clarify the research performed during each of these periods. In the documentation tab of each log, we allow users to upload any files they feel support the research issues in question. This can be done via mobile devices when they're in the field or away from their desk. Last but not least, the CRA requires that the employee timesheet details closely correlate with the research we've outlined. We found that most companies have timesheet systems, however, they fall short of the CRA requirements in one or more areas. The most common types of missing information include 1. The type of experimentation they performed, 2. The location of the work, if outside their normal province or country, and 3. Ideally, additional details on how this work correlated to the variables of uncertainty in question. To accomplish this, users can view costs related to A, a specific log, or B, all logs. They can then add costs and details for themselves or their colleagues. If we use the above example and edit the entries for the employee Al Nobel, we can add the time spent, locations, and additional details to validate the costs of each employee during the log period. As a closing issue, we would like to bring your attention to some new R&D project examples developed by the Australian government for their R&D tax credit program. These include 6 different examples of full R&D projects for the energy sector. They also include examples for other industries, including agri-food, biotech, communication and information technologies, manufacturing, and construction. It is important to note that both Canada and Australia use the same internationally accepted definition of SR&D in their income tax legislation. As a result, we propose these examples are a useful source of ideas for Canadian claimants since they are 1. More complete than the CRA's 10 new examples, in that they attempt to describe all components of the project versus the CRA examples which attempt to illustrate single concepts such as uncertainty or advancement. As always, we welcome your input and comments. Good luck shredding in 2014.